Hi, it's Jade here. I've been talking to a few new members in my WhatsApp group for OCD recovery about ROCD, which for me was quite a sticky theme to overcome. And I think because I've made quite a lot of progress in relation to my life and my marriage, being a lot happier than it was in previous years, I thought, because we'd been chatting about it, I'd said to a couple of the guys in there that I would do a bit of a video just trying to explain in a bit more detail what I did and how unconditional self and life acceptance helped me with specifically ROCD. So my ROCD split into two camps. I found that I had a lot of retroactive jealousy and feeling like I wasn't good enough for my partner, my husband, when we were first together. Extreme jealousy causing me to check and ruminate and compare myself to past partners, that type of stuff, which I've made really great progress in. But I'll be honest, I still have a couple of lapses in that part. I think I haven't quite identified it as a problem until fairly recently. So I'm making good strides and my compulsions are gone in that sense. But what I want to talk to you about is the opposite end of the spectrum with ROCD for me, which was that loveless fear of commitment ROCD that tortured me for years. So I've been with my husband, we've been together for 13 years. And at each stage of the commitment becoming more strong, I felt increasingly uncomfortable and nervous. And I just had this reoccurring intrusive thought of, this is not right, we should not be together. If I go down this path, I'm doomed. So when we first started living together, it was like, he'd asked me, do I want to buy a house together? And I was, if I do this, I'm doomed. I'm locked in, I'm trapped, this is awful. I went ahead with it in the end. Turns out it was all right, but it did still lock on. And then you get closer to engagements, you look at how you're supposed to feel. So when he proposed to me, it was like my brain screamed, what are you doing? No, you can't say yes to this. And then when I said yes, my brain was like, you liar, you lied. How could you lead him down that path? That's disgusting. You're awful. You're evil. You're leading him down the path. You're in denial. And my brain scanned for loads of reasons as to why I had done this. It was like, oh, well, because your parents split up when you were a kid, you're scared of leaving him, you don't have the guts to leave even though you should. So I'm sure loads of you guys can resonate with this with ROCD, that scans for proof and evidence. And the reason I'm sharing this background is I am out the other side on this fear, and I don't feel this fear anymore. So when we were getting married, it was very much like, oh, that's it now. I've gone way too far. I'm lying to him, I'm lying to his family, I'm lying to everybody around us. And it was really scary. I mean, I gave my engagement ring back to him a few times, which, poor guy, like, he was just like, what is going on? What, are we getting married? Do you feel better? And it was horrible. But it was just OCD digging its heels in. And funnily enough, on our wedding day, I did have a lush time. It was great. But where I got to with ROCD, through working with OCD recovery, was realising that the only reason this was latching was through some irrational beliefs that I had about what love and marriage is. So once the sort of honeymoon period of the relationship had sort of calmed a little bit, shall we say, I put that down to, oh, it must be over, I should be with somebody else. And I was looking for clues, I was scanning, well, should I be with that person, should I be with this person? And once I started looking at ROCD, I realised that I needed to work on my irrational beliefs, which is, I must feel in love all the time, I must be with the absolute perfect partner who meets all my needs on every front, and I must feel sexually attracted to them at all times, otherwise there's something fundamentally wrong. I must never find anybody else remotely sexually or physically attractive or emotionally attractive, because if I do, that means I should be with them and not my husband. So like OCD does, all of those things were like zoomed in on and blown up, so that that's all I could think about. Everything he did was assessed, analysed. It was like, does that fit with what my picture of love is, and should I do this, and should I? So I ended up in just like years of, I need to leave, I'm just scared, that's why I'm not leaving. So what unconditional self and life acceptance teaches us is firstly this: My rational belief was, if I am in a marriage that is not based on love, my life is horrific, it's over, I'm the worst person. B, if I get a divorce, I'm shameful, I didn't commit, I said in front of God, who I'm not actually religious anyway, I said in front of God I'd be with this person till the day I die, and I've signed a contract, I'm locked in, there's no way I could divorce, everyone would be so disappointed in me. That was the second one. And the third one was FOMO, like, what if I'm missing out? What if I should have travelled? What if I should be in New York right now in an ad agency? What if I should be doing this? What if I should be doing that? What if I could have experienced more in my 20s? I settled too young. What if, what if, what if? Unconditional self and life acceptance teaches us to make peace with the feared scenario. So, loads of people actually are in loveless marriages. Lots of people have had divorces and their whole family stopped speaking to them. Like, why is that so scary? Like, it's not ideal, we don't want it, but why would that be the scariest thing in the world? Surely there's other things going on in life that we can focus on. So what I had done is I'd centered my entire life around my relationship. If my relationship's not right, everything's awful. Once I started to sort of look at life as a bigger picture, to go, okay, my preference would be that I'm in love all the time, every day with my husband, and feel that gushy feeling and everything's perfect and everything's right all the time. That's my preference, but like, I don't need it in order to live. Actually, I can focus more on my art or on my work, and I can enjoy time with my friends. Oh, okay, my husband doesn't meet that exact emotional need, but I've got a really close friend who does, so why do I need everyone to meet every need? You might find that there's physical aspects of your partner that freak you out, like you're not happy with, and you think, oh, I need to be with a partner who's got a different physical attribute, such as I usually go for blondes, why am I with a brunette? Or anything like that it can latch to. Well, yeah, your preference could be that you've always fancied blonde women or blonde men. You've happened to settle down with a brunette. There we go. There must be loads of other things that are great about that partner that led you to that. But now that OCD's latched, you can't take your mind off it. So one of the best things I learned from Rob at OCD Recovery was about the difference between preferences and needs, and making peace that in life, just because all our preferences are not met does not make life miserable and unbearable. So that's the big thing that I wanted to talk about, was just that, because as soon as I made peace with this idea that if my fear is true, that I don't love my husband, that I don't want to be with him, that I settled too young, that I made a mistake, if that's true, I could actually still live. Like, it wouldn't be the best thing in the world. It's not what I want. I don't want it to be true. But even if it is true, I know loads of people who get by quite well in life, doing well in their companies, loving their art. And I also did a lot of work breaking down quite rigid beliefs I had, such as once you're married, that's it, you're locked in for life. That's nonsense. I could get a divorce tomorrow. I could say, I'd like to get a divorce, I'm not happy. Loads of people have done that. I used to think, well, I can't do anything for myself now, I can't travel on my own. Of course you can. Like, who is saying that being married is anything more than like a nice commitment between two people based on love? Sorry to trigger. But, you know, where is it written down that the fact that you said to someone, I promise to be with you until I die, like, I personally don't believe you can promise that to anyone. That's like saying, I promise I'll love the colour pink until the day I die, and then one day you don't love pink anymore. Like, you go into it with the view of, I'm really going to try at this, and love is hard work. But I think it's about breaking down and not being, I think with OCD we are so literal. You know, we're so literal. Like, I've had friends who got married and be like, oh yeah, blah, blah. Oh, I really fancy that bloke, I wish I'd ended up with him. But like, almost passing banter, and I'd be thinking, oh, how could you say that? You know, whoa, don't you worry about that? And they're like, no, I'm happy with him, he's great, you know, but yeah, he was quite fit. And you just think, like, again, OCD, it just latches and it just digs its fingers into normal concerns. So I think the first one is working on unconditional self-acceptance, which is, look, if I ever did do what I feared, i.e. leave and all my family detest me because they think I made a wrong decision. Well, I can still live with myself. I don't need other people's approval. I'd like it, but I don't need it. And then the other one is, actually, I don't need my relationship to be my entire life. I'd like to have all of the things I want out of my relationship, but I don't need them. And genuinely, now that I actually do wholeheartedly believe in that, I believe that I don't need my relationship to be perfect. It actually feels pretty lovely as a relationship because I'm just more light-hearted with it. Like, I have a laugh. I never used to have a laugh. Everything was like, if he said something, I'm like, well, what did you mean by that? And does that make him this type of person? And I just have fun now. Like, it's just like, whatever. And it's like more breezy. Like, you just have more fun because you're not as concerned about whether or not it's right and perfect. And it's like squeezing a tiny bird death. Like, you want connection so much that it just doesn't happen. And that's what ROCD does. It zaps any feeling, just takes it away because you want it so much. So clearly you can see by not needing it as much, it can start to come back in. For it to work though, my motivation couldn't be, I want to believe this so that I get the feelings back, because that doesn't work either, because the OCD knows that you're working really hard in order to achieve something. So it was more about actually fundamentally making peace that I do not need this relationship to be perfect. I need it to be fine, like I can accept it with its flaws. And I genuinely promise you, I've been to the depths of doubt. I've made some horrendous decisions based on my ROCD. I've been in pieces, and I mean talking 8 hours to friends, analysing, assessing, just trying to work it out. And it's a rabbit hole because you feel like you'll get that answer, but it doesn't exist. And you feel like if you leave, it'll be clear, but it won't, because then it'll be, well, should I have left? And then with a new partner, it'll be, oh, should I have stayed with that one? And it's just never ending. So the only way to get to the bottom of ROCD is to really dig into uprooting the fear, which is, I must be in a perfect relationship in order to be happy. Life is awful if I'm not fully fulfilled with the perfect partner who ticks all of my preferences. Life must be as I want it at all times, otherwise I can't stand it. And then working on chipping away at those. And life just becomes simpler and happier when you don't need perfection anymore. And I think that is the crux of all OCD, isn't it? We want certainty, we want perfection. And anyone else I know who's gone through the same recovery journey as me has recognised how much OCD creeps into so many areas of life in relation to perfection. It's always around, it needs to be right. If it's not right, I can't stand it. How do I find out if it's right? And a massive part of that is stopping the fight. You don't need to know if it's right. You don't need it to be right. You can live with things just the way they are. And for me, with ROCD, specifically around, am I in the right relationship? Am I in the right marriage? It has unlocked now because I'm at peace with, I don't know if I'm with the right person. I don't know. I don't mind either. Like, I'm generally very happy in my relationship. So even when it bites, if I get a bit triggered about something to do with it, my reaction is healthy. It's like, well, so what? Even if it was true, like loads of people are unhappily married, whatever, I've got other things going on. I can do loads of other things in life, even if it's true. And it just unlocks. And then, like any normal relationship, we'll have times where it's rocky and we're not that connected, and then other times where it's incredible. But I did have years where it wasn't ever incredible because I was so obsessed with feeling that connection, with everything being amazing. And the reality of a relationship is it's not always cloud nine after the honeymoon period. So I would urge you to look into self and life acceptance and having more rational thinking, and just to stop the compulsions, like asking people, oh, how did you know he was the one? When you got married, were you certain? And people say things like, oh, I just knew he was the only one for me. Like, I couldn't imagine being with someone else. And your brain goes, oh my God, there's something wrong. But just remember, people say stuff like, they just say stuff and they don't have OCD. They're not the people to be talking to. Stop the rumination. Make peace that maybe they're more in love than you are. That's all right. I've got a friend who sometimes triggers me because she's in this like absolute love bubble, I think. And I'm like, well, maybe she's more in love. Maybe she's met a better match. That's all right. Like, I don't need to concern myself with it. I'm generally happy in mine. So I hope that was helpful. And yeah, cut the compulsions.